during the games. Remember, the Locker Room, the best for sport in Scotland.
Good evening and welcome to the Locker Room, the third this week for European football, concentrating on all the Scottish teams in Europe. Tonight it's the turn of Hearts, and I'm not going to lie, this is going to be tough because it finished Hearts 0, Fiorentina 3 at Tynecastle. And to help me dissect the game, if you can call it that, it's Mr. Dave Smith. Dave, how are you?
Yeah, very well, thanks, Graham. I'm not a Jambo, so I'm making sure you just keep still tonight. So that's why I'm on.
I picked the wrong time to do Go Sober for October. I could have done with a drink after that. But anyway, we shall try and dissect the game. So it finished 3-0 to Fiorentina. A disappointing night for Hearts. Looking at the lineup tonight, Hearts started Craig Gordon in goal. It was a back three of Lewis Nielsen. I was going to say Robin Nielsen there. Lewis Nielsen, Stephen Kingsley and Alec Cochrane. In midfield, it was Michael Smith, George Grant, Keo Mortzakoglu and Andy Halliday. And the front three was Josh Ginnelly, Lawrence Shankland and Barry Mackay. Now, I put on one of my chats to my mates earlier on, Dave, that for me the tone was set as soon as Fiorentina kicked off, because Fiorentina kicked off and not one Hearts player pressed the ball, and they allowed Fiorentina to dictate the game right from the start.
And that's the least ideal situation you can have in a European game, where you're on the opponents, especially of that calibre, a lot of time in the ball. That's when it makes it so frustrating, first and foremost, but also it makes it, what's going to go and happen here type of situation as well. And then Fiorentina go and set the ball rolling from the word go, as you say, score soon after, obviously make it 2-3 within the space of the game. And then obviously Hearts don't help themselves at the sending off of Lewis Nielsen. And a hard night for Hearts because, I mean, Hearts haven't had the best of runs heading into tonight's game domestically. But at the same time as well, obviously Saturday we get beat 4-0 by Rangers wasn't nice at all from a Hearts point of view. I had half a feeling for tonight. I had half a feeling in the aspect that I knew that Fiorentina were a good side, but I also had the feeling as well that I think Hearts, I had a feeling Hearts were going to make Tynecastle a bit of a fortress again. I think this result and the result against Istanbul kind of suggests to us that Hearts still have a lot of work to do. A lot of work to do in domestic trail, because last season, let's be honest, a lot of teams were underwhelming in the league, right? So I think it kind of tells us they've still got a lot of work to do in terms of domestic level, but they've got far more work to do at the European level as well.
What's a worry for me is that obviously against Rangers we lost an early goal. Now, before the game tonight, Robin Nielsen did say that Hearts would go and play on the front foot. That didn't happen. And then after just a few minutes, Mandragora has a free header. He's arrived late in the box. Nobody picks him up. And it's very poor defending from Hearts.
Oh, 100%. I mean, we've been speaking a few times, Graham, about John Suter. And let's be honest, there's a lot of Hearts fans not unsure whether John Suter was going to be a massive Mr. Hearts or not. I think the last couple of months have dictated that because, let's be honest, it's left a massive spine. Now, I'm a big fan of Peter Hannon and the way he plays. It can be frustrating sometimes, but he's good in that aspect. But the player you hate, who's the player you get frustrated by? Is it Civic?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he didn't play tonight, did he? It was the boy Nielsen?
Yeah, Lewis Nielsen, yeah.
And Nielsen, I've also covered United, as you know, and from Nielsen's point of view, he's a good player, but he's not a player ready for this level. And I think that showed tonight. And Hearts are all over the place defensively. I mean, that's equated in three goals for Fiorentina, an easy victory for Fiorentina. Now, let's be honest, Graham, there's a lot of work to be done from a Hearts point of view because they'll go a resurgent Kilmarnock side on Sunday. And then Fiorentina and Florence is going to be a different kettle of fish altogether to what we've seen in Gorgie tonight.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about John Suter, rightly so, but for me, at the moment, the two biggest misses are Craig Halkett and Kai Rowles, because for me, until they got injured, they were the huge part of that defence, and not having them, you can see we look very, very vulnerable defensively.
Yeah, I forgot about Halkett, actually. you underestimate the fact that the part he plays where he's not involved. Same with Kyle Rouse, because Kyle started his spell at Hearts very, very well. And I am sure got a lot of praise for the work he did, but for Halkett and Rouse to be missing, that's even bigger. And Rouse is massive in terms of the fact that he can have an adaptability about his play. He's got a versatility about his play. And then Halkett's good in terms of Halkett's not a modern day defender by any stretch of imagination, but Craig Halkett's good in the aspect that he's simple, he's basic, and that's what you get from Craig Halkett. He did that Livingston as well. He's just good in that part of the game. But from a Hearts point of view, I think tells when you've got players under that magnitude missing and just puts the pressure massively. And then, as you say at the top of the show, the fact that Fiorentina were basically just having the freedom of Edinburgh in the early stages of the game just tells you everything you need to know about how comfortable night was for Fiorentina, but how frustrating it was for Hearts' point of view as well.
Yeah, I took notes. Michael Smith had a header save from Halliday's cross after 8 minutes, and after that, the only notes that I've got in the first half are all chances for Fiorentina. Luka Jovic, who we know went for 60 million to Real Madrid a couple of years ago, missed a hatful of chances. I mean, are you surprised, especially at Tynecastle, and it was mentioned during the commentary tonight, just how passive Hearts were?
Oh, 100%. I mean, this was a terrific opportunity. I think it was something that Robbie Nelson and Andy Halliday touched upon the pre-match conference yesterday. They were touching upon the fact that they were looking at it without a level of confidence. It seemed to be an entertaining press conference by all accounts yesterday. I don't think the mood in Georgia will be as vibrant tonight. But yeah, when you look at it, I mean, they were all over the place in the middle of the park, defensively all over the place. Shanklin never got a look in. Alan Forrest never got a look in, and just when you look at the Hearts team overall, it was just a night to forget. And as I said, it was a night to forget. It was a missed opportunity because Istanbul, fair enough, the better side won in that night in question. RFS, a good confidence booster for Hearts that because they had been going in a poor run prior to that victory 3 weeks ago. So for Hearts to basically chuck it tonight against Fiorentina, there's no other way to put it, chucked it, is disappointing and something that they need to learn from. But also at the same time as well, I've forgotten his name now. Mark Donaldson, I think his name is ESPN. Yeah. He had a photo out today about this coefficient thing. I thought it was brilliant, by the way. Just the fact that Craig Gordon and all these Robbie Nelson was in it and all that kind of stuff. But that's clear out the window now. The coefficient, if Hearts don't qualify, is clear out the window now. You're expecting it to be damage limitation from a Hearts point of view now.
I don't know if you've seen this already, but RFS actually drew with Istanbul Başakşehir 0-0 tonight.
That's a good result.
I know, I just noticed that before I came on tonight.
Yeah, no, that's a great result. That's a great result for RFS because, I mean, they had their chances in the last game against Hearts, RFS, but they never seemed to be the side that had a streetwise mentality, or they never had a composure about their player, they never had a compact siege about them. They seemed to be the side that would get exposed. They were the side that were competitive, but at the same time as well, what I would say is they are an improvement on the Winfield days, because let's be honest, it was a skin of the teeth moment when they beat Winfield in penalties in the qualifying round. But I think they've improved on that. And I still felt they were a little bit short when they played Hearts, because Hearts had enough about them in that evening in question to go and see the game out and go and win the game. But that result with Istanbul shows you, first of all, was the quality in Hearts' group, but secondly, how underwhelming Hearts have been in the Europa Conference League this year.
Yeah, we will get back to Hearts in a minute. I just want to say, though, congratulations to Scotland women, because tonight in their playoff game for the World Cup, they have beaten Austria by 1-0 at Hampden Park. Abby Harrison in the 92nd minute, the game went to extra time. So Scotland women will now play against Ireland next Tuesday at Hampden for a place at the World Cup. So massive congratulations to Scotland. Dave, I mean, we talk about Scotland quite a lot on this show as well. It's been a massive confidence boost for Scotland the last few games for the men's team. And the women's team have now just followed suit. That's a magnificent result for the Scotland women tonight.
Yeah, I was watching both games tonight, Graham, and Scotland did have to show a level of resilience tonight, but job done. And that's the most important thing as far as Pedro Martinez-Rosa's side is concerned. As I said, they had to show resilience. Pardon me, Austria did have their chances, but it wasn't as though Wade Gibson had a lot of work to do in the Scotland goal. There was a couple of efforts that were going wide or going over the bar, or a couple of efforts that they did look a threat, and Scotland did look a little bit vulnerable from. But at the same time, they were hardly a pivotal threat for the goal. And I mean, it was a good night as far as Scotland were concerned. A lot of Scotland fans were feeling nervous. I was speaking to my good mate John Bleasdale today, actually, just to give him a shout out there. John's actually at the game. He was in the press area tonight. He was telling me he was actually very nervous for the game tonight because he knew the quality that Austria possessed, and they did possess a threat. But from a Scotland point of view as well, if I'm going to be constructive here, it was the fact that we didn't test Austria goalkeeper enough in the 90 minutes because the conditions weren't great at Hampden tonight, and it was one of those where you looked at it and looked at the park, and it did look a little bit soggy. But overall, job done for Scotland, and that's the most important thing. And what I will say is, Abby Harrison, I've been crying out for a long time now for Abby Harrison to be included in the Scotland setup, and I think she's done well to have been included. But the fact she's got that goal, let's be honest, it was on a plate for her. A great ball by Eric Cuthbert, and Abby Harrison had the freedom of Glasgow to pretty much head the ball into the net, and brilliant from Harrison to get that goal. I mean, she's a live wire in the box and took her goal really, really well, but also defensively very, very strong as well. With Corsi, brilliant as ever. Nick Dock, I thought was really, really good tonight. Sophie Howard was decent enough, and yeah, a lot of positives tonight, and advantage in Republic of Ireland on Tuesday, which, let's be honest, is the biggest game under Pedro Martinez-Rosa's tenure now.
I'm just trying to see if they give you an attendance for tonight, and I can't see it anywhere, so I don't know how much crowd they got at Hampden tonight, but I would hope they will get a massive crowd for that game against Ireland next week, because as you say, that is such a huge, huge game for Scotland. What a chance to get to the finals in New Zealand. It would be incredible if they can pull it off.
Well, my understanding, I don't know what the tense is, but my understanding is that if you bought tickets, well, my understanding is if you bought 2 tickets, you're getting them for the price of 1, I think. So, for example, if you bought tickets for the original Austria game, they were obviously offering the tickets for the Ireland game as well, which you'd obviously pay for. And if Scotland got beat tonight, just to give you an example, there was a full refund to supporters. So fair play to SFM for being proactive in that regard, because it means we'll be able to get our supporters in, and obviously, hopefully we can get some more supporters in for Tuesday's game. Hopefully we can build in the attendance that is there tonight. And obviously Scotland Supporters Club got free membership for all the women's games as well. So I'm pretty sure there will be a decent enough crowd there on Tuesday, and hopefully they can cheer on the Tartan Army. So because it'd be a big one from the Scotland point of view. Obviously, I'm a big believer that I think Scotland's Cup finals tonight to an extent. Now, I don't want to get too carried away here, Graham, but I do think that Scotland's Cup finals tonight, because I would argue that Austria's a stronger side than Ireland are, because Austria reached quarters, and on the Rangers side, Ireland are slowly evolving, but nowhere near the first article yet. The 10th tonight, Graham, was 10,182.
That's pretty decent, pretty good. Hopefully they can get a bigger one next week. So congratulations, Scotland women. They are in the playoff final against Ireland next Tuesday. Fantastic result for them tonight. And they've never lost to Austria, which is a great result tonight as well. But back to the miserable side now, and unfortunately back to Hearts, who have been beaten 3-0 by Fiorentina. And I've got some quotes here from Hearts captain Craig Gordon, who says, Fiorentina moved the ball about very well. They've enjoyed themselves. We wanted to get closer, but sometimes you have to say they were too good. There were a few spells in the first half where we could have nicked a goal. It would have been against a run of play, but we could have nicked a goal and changed it. Within 5 minutes of the second half, the game is gone. On the red card, Craig Gordon says, the ball is coming through to me. Jovic isn't catching it. That's why he's going to the ground to look for something out of it. He's managed to get it, which finishes the game. I knew he wasn't going to catch the ball. He knew what he was doing. I mean, if you look at their red card, I mean, we actually started the second half okay. Barry Mackay's got a shot over the bar. And then the big moment. Now, listen, I don't think Hearts would have got back in the game anyway, but the big moment comes after 48 minutes. The ball played over the top. Lewis Nielsen drags Jovic down, but the ball is going through to Craig Gordon. Now, there was no VAR tonight. Do you think if VAR was in play that would have been overturned?
Well, I think so. Yeah, I mean, VAR is going to be an interesting one to see if it actually is an advantage for Scottish football or not, because you've seen it last night how I know the scoreline didn't go Celtic's way last night, ultimately last night, but you said how it worked for them on a couple of occasions last night. It would have been interesting to see what happened had it been in play tonight. And I think it would have been turned around had it been in play. I mean, I read something very interesting. I don't know how I came across it actually, but it was something about Davy Martindale getting frustrated about something about the lack of, well, it was about Davy Martindale basically saying it'd be interesting to see what happened if VAR was in play. They will play Motherwell, and I think they could beat in a game. It was because Motherwell scored the penalty in that night in question, didn't they? And what I actually found out, because the reporter said it, is that said VAR, but obviously not exactly up close and live. They basically had a tester camera thing, and I think once Martindale found that out, I think he had hand in head going, "What are we getting ourselves in?" You'd have been wondering if the same happened for Hearts here. I mean, Nielsen, he was controversial from his point of view to be sent off, and VAR came in with an interesting one. This is the thing; it's had its critics in England in particular, but I think it's got its critics in England because it's a different speed, a different temperature, a different tempo to maybe like the rest of Europe, and obviously how they've done it like the Euros and the World Cup respectively for the men's and the women's. So I don't know, it's going to be an interesting one when it comes into play. They're expecting it to come into play before the World Cup, I think, so I'm led to believe. So it's going to be an interesting one to see how that evolves moving forward. And hopefully it brings a lot of benefits, but are we going to have the same talking points such as what we're speaking about just now? 100% raw, and that's going to be the depressing thing about it. Don't get me wrong, it's great to speak about these things after a pint of lager, but at the same time as well, it's those things that are getting the referees into the spotlight right now. I mean, from a Premiership point of view, Jim Goodwin getting a 8-game ban today, which I was incensed about. That's for sure. And I think they're incensed by the length of the ban rather than the fact that Jim Goodwin is getting banned. Because I was listening to a bit of his press conference today. I'll obviously go back to Hearts in a minute, but he was saying it was quite a fair outcome. He said he thought he had a fair meeting with the SFA and obviously the representatives of Hibs as well. But the SFA obviously thought otherwise. It's a different page altogether. So I think it'll be interesting one when VAR comes in. Would it have overturned? Well, had I been Mr. VAR, then yes, 100%. But I'll be interested to see what the VAR would have said on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I think from what I can remember, VAR is actually due to come in this month. I'm not sure when or what game it's coming into, but it is due in October. So it would be interesting to see. I just want to touch on Lewis Nielsen now. I've been a massive fan of Nielsen. He's only 19. I thought in the game against RFS, he was excellent. But obviously, he's going to have dips in form because he's only young. Now, I think against Rangers and again tonight, he has looked a little bit off the pace. But again, is that just that inexperience? I mean, he's obviously had Stephen Kingsley beside him. But if Craig Halkett and Kyle Rowles are fit, Lewis Nielsen probably isn't playing these games.
Yeah, he's probably inexperienced in this regard because, let's be honest, he has played with some experienced players over the last couple of years. Charlie Mulgrews and Benji Siegrist and Stephen Kingsley's and Craig Halkett's and Craig Gordon's and so forth. But at the same time as well, you need to build up your own experience. Now, you get that through playing games as managers against quality sides such as Fiorentina. But at the same time as well, I think Lewis Nielsen needs to take a lot of learning from this. And he's playing the right level of games at this precise moment in time, the right level of games for his own development. Is it maybe tarnishing or hampering Hearts and Scotland and the 21s' progress respectively? Probably to a wee extent, but at the same time, he's obviously nurturing and developing. But tonight will be a sore for Lewis Nielsen because he you've got an injury for the Scotland in the 21s a few weeks ago against Northern Ireland. So that was a trauma from Nielsen's point of view. And then obviously sending off tonight doesn't help his confidence any harm. You alluded to the Rangers game there. That's the thing. I don't think he's ready to be playing against big sides such as your Rangers, as your Fiorentinas, even I'd argue saying your Aberdeens and your maybe not, but obviously there's a bit of bad blood between Hearts and Dundee United at this precise moment in time because of the Lewis Nielsen scenario. So it'd be an interesting one from that point of view. But yeah, I'm not saying Lewis Nielsen isn't good enough to play in a Hearts jersey. He just needs a bit more of maturity and he needs a bit more development in order to enhance himself in this Hearts side.
Yeah, I mean, do you think like games like tonight and Rangers are just massive learning curves for him?
Oh, it has to be. It will be. I mean, when you play against players such as Alfredo Morelos and Antonio Kovac, and you also play against Jovic,
Luka Jovic.
Jovic, sorry. When you play against those type of players, it only helps your development because you're having to learn a different side of the game. Now, let's be honest, domestically, with all due respect, he's not played against the calibre of attackers that he has with Kyogo at Celtic and Jovic and Kovac and Morelos. They're four fantastic strikers. And let's be honest, Morelos looked very, very hungry when he played you on Saturday. He looked very hungry. It's the best I've seen Morelos play for a long time in the Rangers jersey on Saturday there. And as for Kovac, obviously, I'd argue that Morelos is got the better attributes all around, but at the same time as well, Kovac could nick a goal at anywhere. So from Nielsen, he needs to learn from that. I think Sunday's a good blending game for him. Blending game in the aspect that Kilmarnock will be resurgent following that result last night, but at the same time as well, it'll be interesting to see how he gets on against a big physical striker in Kyle Lafferty. Yeah, Kyle Lafferty that's got an impending suspension on him, but at the same time as well, it's going to be interesting to see how he gets on with somebody of that calibre. A player that doesn't score the amount of goals that he used to, but a player that offers so much to the way Kilmarnock play, and that was probably proven in that 2-1 win against Johnston last night. But yeah, when you look at Nielsen, it's going to be an interesting one and intriguing to see how he evolves moving forward because when you look at his overall game, you can see Dundee United fans were saying exactly the same. They were saying he's got a lot to improve on, but the baby steps are there.
Yeah, I just want to touch on a comment that I heard on the radio before I came on the show tonight, and it was from one of the pundits watching the TV, watching the game, and he basically said Hearts don't have a big enough squad to play Thursday, Sunday every week. They've lost key players to injury, and there's not enough quality there. Now, obviously, as a Hearts fan, I think that's probably quite a fair point. There isn't a lot of quality there, especially defensively. Do you think that's pretty much a fair assessment?
Well, I'll go back to deadline day. We were basically 9:30, 10 o'clock on that Thursday night going, where's the signings? Where's the signings? Where's the signings? And the Hearts only brought in Stephen Humphries, where everybody at the club, when I say everybody, I mean fans, I mean players, I mean directors, I mean staff, I mean Robbie Nielsen, I mean Lee McCulloch, I mean Gordon Forrest. Everybody knew, and obviously finances play a huge part, but at the same time, Hearts could have remunerated them massively with the fact that on the European pursuits. And for them only bringing Stephen Humphries was kind of the writing on the wall. It was kind of the start of something. The start of something that was going to deteriorate, and that's exactly how it's proved to turn out. I mean, Hearts needed a lot of quality and fairness areas. Now, the sort of the striker department, Warren Shanklin, been off the ball a little bit, but a good striker will score goals. Out wide was a position they were craving for, to my understanding. Central midfield, the same, again, to my understanding. Centre half, because of how Halkett went to wave around about that time, was a requirement. And they didn't deliver in any of those. And then you're finding out that players are becoming weary, they're becoming tired, they're becoming pressurised because, as you say, and as the radio guys have said, they're playing 2 games a week on a Sunday and a Thursday. Now, let's be honest, if you're playing a game at 7:45, 8 o'clock on a Thursday, such as what Hearts are doing tonight, and then I'll go back to the old Derek McCress phrase when Aberdeen played Kilmarnock in a Scottish Cup game on a Wednesday before playing a game on a Saturday again. You're getting back at Edinburgh, just to give you an example. I know Hearts are at home tonight. You'll get back at Edinburgh at the early hours of Friday morning, and then you've got less than 60 hours to get ready for another game on Sunday afternoon against whoever you're playing. And it's going to be exactly the same this Sunday as they go to Kilmarnock. Well, I know they're at home, but the recruitment is going to be, the recovery, will need to be meticulous. It can't be, you can do a little bit of training, but it's predominantly all going to be about recovery. It'll be exactly the same, but you'll have to adapt a little bit different next week because you're away to Fiorentina, and then you've got a tough away type Pittodrie next Sunday. So it's about how you manage it. And the Hearts able to go and change things imminently in the aspect that they've got like-for-like replacements on the bench. Not a chance.
Yeah, and I mean, when we go down to 10 men, we make a few changes. Humphreys and Devlin come on for Shankland and George Grant. Now, for me, Devlin should have started this game. He's the one player in that team that actually presses and harries. And also, he's suspended for the next 2 league games anyway. So for me, not starting Cammy Devlin, in my mind, was a mistake.
Yeah, I also didn't realise it was suspended for 2 league games. I completely forgot you get sent off on Saturday by me. But I mean, I can kind of understand why he's not playing him to an extent. And certain Hearts fans might disagree with what I'm going to say here, but I think after Saturday, I think there was kind of a man management mantra about it because Robbie Nielsen is one of the best managers in Scottish football in terms of defending his players. He didn't defend Cammy Devlin by any stretch of imagination Saturday after that challenge on Matondo. And that's where Hearts were at. But I do agree with you at the same time. You should have started Cammy Devlin. Let's be honest, Cammy Devlin would have given Hearts something different, something that they were craving. They were craving a creativity. They were craving a desire. They were craving a character, and they've got absolutely nothing of that. And if your Hearts, let's be honest, you're an Andy Halliday critic. Andy Halliday's this guy that you love to hate primarily because he's an ex-Rangers player, but primarily as well because of how he controls himself and his attitude and his previous misdemeanors. So, from an Andy Halliday point of view, he's not a forward-thinking player. Yes, he might look like Fabio Cannavaro switch with Paulo Maldini sometimes because he goes and scores goals. But at the same time, he's just this guy from the scheme in Glasgow that is defensive-minded. And with that in mind, Hearts aren't getting a renewed optimism or an impetus in the forward areas.
Obviously, after that, 2-0 down, we're a man down. It's pretty comfortable Fiorentina. They don't really have to stretch themselves. We make more changes. Alan Forrest and Gary Mackay-Steven come on for Josh Ginnelly and Barry Mackay. Saponara has a shot over the bar at 71 minutes. And then Jovic eventually does get his goal after 78 minutes. 3-0. The game's done. But I just want to touch on a few of the players here. Now, I'm a massive, massive Barry Mackay fan. I think he's a brilliant, brilliant footballer. I love the guy to bits. But there is a certain thing that goes around on Twitter and on some of the Hearts forums that I do agree with, that in the bigger games, Barry Mackay doesn't show up. And again tonight, I thought he was miles off the pace.
Well, forgive me if I'm wrong here. I think that's exactly what Rangers fans were saying about him as well when he was on the verge of leaving Ibrox and when he was putting in under-par performances. So it's a recurring theme as far as Barry Mackay's concerned. And somebody's got to improve on moving forward. He's earned a lot of plaudits, Barry Mackay, for being in the Scotland squad. His performances against, as you alluded to, the smaller sides in the Premiership allowed him to go and represent the international team, as did, obviously, introduced to the original squad. But at the same time, he's putting in fantastic performances against Dundee United, St Johnstone, Kilmarnock. Well, I know they've not played him in the league yet, but they played him in the cup, obviously. all the sides that are within the bottom 6 in the league. Yet he's not delivering against Hibs, Rangers, Celtics, European games. And that's where people do get frustrated, as you said. And it's something that he needs to go and improve on. I mean, I've made this point to you guys on a few occasions, and I've made the point internally to other people as well. Barry Mackay and Alan Forrest combined on either side of the wing, or obviously in the forward areas if Robbie Nielsen plays a 4-3-3. But if you play a 4-2-3-1, obviously Mackay and Forrest, it offers so much to the way Hearts play. I'll elaborate on Robbie Nielsen in due course, but when you look at Barry Mackay, he would offer so much in terms of an attacking threat. An attacking threat that Fiorentina would maybe have a slight understanding about, but an attacking threat that Fiorentina would find it very, very hard to defend against. Same with Alan Forrest, because Alan Forrest was a massive player for Ulster last year. Alan Forrest has put in some good displays for Hearts this year, but maybe not at the level required at Hearts. And a lot of Hearts fans would acknowledge that. So I think there's a lot of improvement. I get what you're saying. I think the next 10 days is a good barometer for Barry Mackay, because you've got Kilmarnock, who are a side that are resurgent and buoyant again. At the same time, still a relegation threatened side. It's an opportunity for Barry Mackay to stamp his own authority in the game and tell everybody I'm back. Then they go to Florence on Thursday. Again, it's another great opportunity because they're playing the same opponents they did tonight. It's an opportunity to bounce back. Then you go to Pittodrie on Sunday, which is notoriously a very tough venue for opposition sides. There, it's an opportunity. Barry Mackay has been renowned for hating going to Pittodrie. He's not the one player that's making it wind up whenever he's going to Pittodrie from a Rangers point of view. But knowing the fact that he's played for Rangers, Aberdeen fans will have a bit of backing him. They'll have a bit of needle with him as well. So it's going to be an interesting one. And as I said, I was going to elaborate. It's a Robbie Nielsen thing now. We've touched upon this many, many a time, Graham, that Robbie Nielsen, after a bad defeat, and let's be honest, this is a bad defeat for Hearts tonight. The Hearts critics will come out by the time we get up tomorrow morning after going to bed tonight.
They already have.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. There's your answer. And, I mean, let's be honest. Is it a big game? Is it a big game mentality problem? That's the big question mark as far as I'm concerned, because you get the feeling that Hearts have become adjacent to getting some big results in big games. At the same time as well, they've struggled against Celtic, they've struggled against Rangers, they struggled tonight, they struggled against Istanbul. And let's be honest, I think the victories over RFS and Motherwell have papered over the cracks a little bit to an extent. Now, I'm not saying I'm not coming here in 1 minute for using this platform to say Robbie Nielsen's going to be getting shafted out the door tomorrow morning. Far from it. What I'm saying is that the lack of performances or lack of consistency from a Barry Mackay, from an Alan Forrest, from a Lawrence Shankland, from midfield and defensive-minded players, is it a Robbie Nielsen tactical problem? I mean, is it the fact that he's focusing far too much on opposition rather than getting a solid team in the park from a Hearts point of view that's going to be conducive to the way the opposition play, but at the same time get a result that's going to make the Hearts fans proud? It's big question marks in my eyes.
Do you know what? You're not a Hearts fan, you're a football fan, but pretty much every point that you've made there is absolutely nail on the head. I've mentioned this numerous times before. I am not for 1 second saying Robbie out. I've already seen numerous people on Twitter tonight saying Robbie has to go. But the thing you've mentioned there is exactly the same thing I've said for a while. Robbie's record in big games, is very, very poor. His performances and results against Rangers and Celtic are awful. The cup final last season. Now, if we'd had a go and got beat in that final, I'd have said, you know what, fair enough, take it. We were very passive in that game. And it's something that happens far, far too often. Now, for me, and I've said this before to mates as well, I think at times Robbie Nielsen overthinks things. I think at times he doesn't believe that we can go out and get a result, so he tends to be a bit more defensive. And I think, again, tonight, personally, I think we showed far too much respect. Don't get me wrong, Fiorentina's a good side, but RFS went to Italy and got a point. Now, I think Robbie Nielsen showed far too much respect tonight.
People will think I'm being a little bit harsh. And when I mean people define that as in perhaps Robbie Nielsen, happy clappers. But I think Robbie Nielsen's had a few black marks on him already this season. I'll name them all. Right, we'll start with Celtic because I felt you were poor that day. Well, secondly, we'll go for Kilmarnock in the Cup because I felt it was a huge opportunity for Hearts.
Mm-hmm.
Thirdly, I'll go for Saturday against Rangers. Fourth, I'll go for tonight. And last but not least, I'll probably go for the qualifier. I forgot who you played again, but I'll go for the qualifier. That's 5 black marks for me against Robbie Nielsen.
I would also throw in Livingston as well.
So I forgot about that.
So, I mean, you've basically just nailed it there. You know, you've basically said every point that a lot of Hearts fans have made. I think at times, I just think Robbie overthinks things too much. And again, I think he's done the same thing tonight. He came out before the game and said, we're going to attack them. That didn't happen tonight.
No, I mean, the fact that, as you said, they were passive, the fact that, as I alluded to, Fiorentina got the freedom of Edinburgh was disappointing to say the least. And I mean, when it needs an organised backline, an organised opposition backline to stop the likes of Lawrence Franklin, stop the likes of Barry Mackay and other players. And when you do that, you're gonna give Hearts a quiet night. It's adjacent to how other sides of Scotland would set up if it becomes interesting in that regard. So I think from that point of view, obviously, there's a lot to think about for Robbie Nielsen. And let's be honest, forget about next Thursday Fiorentina to start with. Focus on that on Sunday night when you're having your dinner with your Sunday roast. First and foremost, it's about Kilmarnock on Sunday. It's about getting a reaction. It's about making sure you get 3 points on the board, because if you don't, well, let's be honest, you've said it yourself, the poison chalice of Robbie Nielsen out is very much alive. It's going to take the Flames come Sunday night if he gets beaten at Rugby Park on Sunday.
So Robbie Nielsen has actually given some comments after the game, and he said, we're disappointed with the result, understatement, but you've got to be proud of the players and the club to get to this level. The disappointment for me was that the 3 goals were preventable. For all the possession they had and movement off the ball, the first 2 goals are just balls into the box that we really should deal with. A very inexperienced and young back 3 to play against a £60 million striker who was at Real Madrid. So these guys will learn from that. You switch off for half a second against these teams and they'll score. It's a massive learning curve. You can't switch off. We have to put ourselves back in a position that we can get this again next year and build. You look at teams historically, when they get into Europe for the first time, it takes a few seasons before they start performing. I'm massively proud of the players tonight. They've gone out against the top European team and competed for Heart of Midlothian. Yes, we came up short, but they gave everything. I'm going to be honest, I disagree with that last part. I don't think they did come out and give everything tonight.
No, it didn't look like that. And one point that Robbie raised about, I'll just remember what he said. It was about the fact that they want to be there next year. Well, I acknowledge what he's saying, but at the same time, if he wants to be back there next year, it's the biggest game of the season now for me to Kilmarnock on Sunday. Biggest game of the season for me in the aspect that Hearts, as I said, need a reaction. And secondly, they need all 3 points. And thirdly, they need to be going out there and putting out a statement, because tonight was disappointing. There was no desire. There was a lack of bodies playing for the Hearts shirt. And when you look at it, that's what makes the difference between a good side and an average side. When you're disjointed and unfamiliar, it's only going to go into shreds. And that's exactly how it turned out to be from a Hearts point of view. And when you look at how things evolved in the game, it was just mishap after mishap after mishap. It was a lack of familiarity. It was poor overall, and organisational-wise, just all over the place. So from Hearts, a lot of improvements to follow. And as I say, I don't know if you agree, but the biggest game of the season for me is this Sunday at Kilmarnock, because it's an opportunity to first and foremost get a result against a Kilmarnock side that are resurgent and are buoyant at exactly the same time as well. It's an opportunity to right a wrong from tonight, because I know European and domestic football is two completely different things, but at the same time, you can't just keep on. Momentum's a big thing in football. Mentality is a big thing in football as well. If you start losing two games, well, it puts pressure on you externally and internally, but at the same time as well, it um, it, it berefs you of confidence, and that's not something that Hearts will be wanting to see right now. So there's that aspect of it. And at the same time as well, they need to make sure that they bounce back in the correct manner possible. Or if not, it's going to be curtains for Hearts. And let's be honest, when you look at the dynamic of the Scottish Premiership this season, it's a lot stronger than it was last season. Maybe Ross County have hit a little bit of a sticky patch in terms of their own selves, because obviously Ross County went through a sublime season last year. Dundee the same. Obviously, they've got Wayne Fox in as manager after a turbulent spell with Jack Ross. But you get the feeling from the outside looking in that both of those sides could be within the periphery of the bottom six this year, which would be disappointing for both clubs. But I think the result of the other night for the Stallions against Motherwell getting beat 5-0 was crucified and very, very poor, to say the least. And as for Dundee, they've got two massive home games within the space of just under a week now, which will, for me, determine where Dundee are at just now. So that's going to be an interesting one as well. But irrespective of that, Hibs are better this year. Aberdeen are better this year. St Johnstone are better this year. I don't think St Johnstone will be the level they were at 2 years ago, but St Johnstone are better. And for me, it's going to be an improvement on Hearts, I think, if they are to finish third again this year, because you look at the sides that were in the top six last year, with two Glasgow teams, Hearts, who else was there? Sorry, there was Motherwell, there was Dundee, there was Ross County. Motherwell were unsure on them just now, because they bagged a brilliant win the other night in Dingwall, but they're getting a lack of consistency just now. A lot of things aren't going Stevie Hammell's way, but then Tuesday, so the proof's still in the pudding for me, but Motherwell. And Dundee and Ross County, as I've alluded to, have hit a brick wall at this precise moment in time. So I'd argue that this season is a lot harder to get European football.
If you're Derek McInnes and Kilmarnock watching that game tonight, are you expecting a reaction from Hearts on Sunday, or are you thinking, do you know what? That defence is vulnerable. We can get at this team.
I think a bit of both. I think they will be expecting a reaction, but at the same time, as you've said there, I think Derek McInnes will be saying to his players tomorrow and saying, look, we're up against a Hearts side that do bring a lot of energy to the game. We're up against a Hearts side that will be looking to get a reaction, get a positivity about them again before they go away to Italy next week. But at the same time, the impending ban in Kyle Lafferty isn't going to be taking place till a fortnight. I mean, Kyle Lafferty won't see Halloween, that's for sure. But he'll be looking to have a trick or treat for Kilmarnock stall on Sunday, that's for sure. I mean, when you look at Lafferty, he'll play a massive part. Daniel Armstrong was brilliant for Kelly last night. His first goal opening score was a great strike. And Daniel Armstrong, but oozing of confidence right now. And Armstrong, I've watched him for Rafe. He was a really, really good player when he played for Starks Park side. I mean, Kelly are one of these sides that they're a threat going forward. But they're all over the place defensively. I've watched Kelly on the telly and I've watched them in the flesh. And they're not I'm not the biggest fan. They played typical Derek McInnes way. Derek McInnes, I've seen it myself at Aberdeen, where he'll go and get results out of nowhere. Aberdeen or Kilmarnock in this precise matter maybe aren't the most exciting teams to watch. They'll always get a result out of nowhere. And Hearts need to be vigilant about that ahead of Sunday.
You say this quite a lot, and rightly so, that what managers say in the press is very different to what they say in the dressing room. Now, I mentioned it there. Robbie mentioned there that Hearts competed well tonight. Now, I don't think they did. So, if you're Robbie Nielsen, are you in that dressing room having a go at individual players, or what are you saying to them after that? Because for me, if we'd have got beat but we put in a performance, I'd have gone, do you know what? Hold the hands up, fair enough. But tonight, that was nowhere near good enough for me.
I think Robbie Nielsen's trying to deflect from the fact that it was a poor evening's work for Hearts, because a lot of managers have come out and say that. Now, Jim Goodwin probably went out. I alluded to Jim Goodwin recently. Jim Goodwin probably came out and said the words he said about Ryan Porteous to deflect from what was, in total reality, a poor Aberdeen performance at Easter Road in that main question. exactly the same tonight. I think Robbie Nelson's trying to make that as a bit of a smokescreen, trying to deflect from the performance put from Hearts now. I agree with Robbie in the aspect where he says that Hearts are a young side out there tonight when you're playing against a 60 million striker in Jovic. But at exactly the same time, you've got to have adaptability as both players and managers to combat with that. There's an accountability phase about this. An accountability phase that a lot of managers, especially in the media, tend to undermine or underestimate, which I'm a little bit surprised about. But at the same time as well, you're expecting Hearts to get a lot better. Now, did Hearts give Fiorentina a lot of respect tonight? 100%. There's no doubting the fact that if Hearts been a little bit more aggressive, and being honest, Gabe, I know Andy Halliday is exactly, he's a bit of a softie when it comes to, we've seen it before, we've seen it in some of the games. He looks hard on the outside, but he's a real softie on the inside. I think Hearts needed a Benny Bellingham tonight, a player that was going to be tough, a player that was going to be ruthless, a player that was going to be aggressive. And they lacked that tonight, and that's how they end up disappointing in the end.
Yeah, I mean, I really shouldn't do this, but I'm looking through Twitter and the reaction is just crazy. I knew that was going to happen. A lot of Hearts fans saying Robin needs to go. But, I mean, how does he lift the players now for Sunday? Because you've mentioned that is now a massive game. If we lose that and results obviously go a different way on Saturday, we could be finding ourselves dropping down the table. So this now becomes a huge game. We can't think about next Thursday. We've got to concentrate on Sunday. So how does Robin Nielsen lift the players after that?
That's a big question. Every manager asks their players in the day after the game. I think it'll be a confidence thing. I'll be interested to see how they do evolve. I mean, it's never easy. It's never an easy game at Rugby Park. I think Kilmarnock have had some decent results over Hearts in the last few years. So it's not going to be an easy one for Hearts by any stretch of imagination. And when you look at this one, I mean, it's going to be tough. Obviously, we're 47 minutes in, Graham, and we've not even mentioned the fact that the game's going to be an Astral surface on Sunday, which means Hearts will have to play the game a whole lot differently as well. I mean, that's not the fact that they're playing an Astral surface, and I'm making no excuses for the Astral tough surfaces here, but the fact that they're playing in a synthetic surface isn't going to be ideal from a Hearts point of view either, especially when they're chasing not only a result in Florence on Thursday evening, but they're also chasing European football beyond Christmas, which is highly unlikely now, I mean, but the fact that they're playing in a synthetic pitch doesn't help in the slightest, because it's harder to recover from playing on a synthetic surface. Now, I'm not making any excuses for Hearts by any stretch of imagination here, but it is different. I mean, how do you want the players? I don't know if you agree, and obviously you're the purist when it comes to Hearts here, but I'd have 4 or 5 changes if I was Robbie Nelson. Robbie, do you think? Now I know it's a big game for Hearts this Sunday. I wouldn't drop. Drop is too strong a word, but I would start Sander clacking goals on Sunday.
Yeah, probably wouldn't. I wouldn't disagree with that. You know, I think Gordon probably does need a break now. He's played a lot of football, and I think, I mean, you could probably make 3 or 4 changes. Devlin's obviously suspended, so he won't play. I think there's potential a chance for Robert Snodgrass to start. I think Alan Forrest should come in. And to be honest, and this is probably going to sound mental, but I would also take out Lawrence Shankland and Stephen Humphreys. I feel sorry for Shankland. He's getting absolutely no service that we were playing just now. And again, I felt sorry for him tonight. He was getting no service. So I would potentially take him out and play Humphreys on Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, when you've got that variability about you, it obviously does help. But the big question, well, I'll go and bring up the team right now when I get the chance to, but it'd be interesting to see. Well, I'm going to be a little bit premature with this and give you. Obviously, I'm not a Hearts fan, so I can't exactly give you an overall point of view. Before I give you my Hearts team or predicted Hearts team for Sunday, would Lewis Nielsen just be banned for next Thursday's game,
Yes. Well, 1 game ban, yeah.
Yes, it would be Sunday, though.
Yeah, he'll be free for Sunday.
Yeah, right. Okay. So, also, Graham, I'm going to flip the coin here. Do you agree with a 3-4-3 for Hearts? Do you think it's the right formation for Hearts?
Nope. I have never liked three at the back. It doesn't work. I think we need to be playing 4-2-3-1. I've discussed this with mates before. Three at the back doesn't suit us. The players look very vulnerable playing in it. I don't know what they're doing. So I would be going back to a back four, personally.
Well, for Sunday, for me, I would start with Gordon and goals again. I'd probably play 4-2-3-1. Play 4-2-3-1 in the aspect that it might not suit Hearts, but I'd play in the aspect of Kelly's threats, because Kelly are a danger going forward. And central midfield-wise, Power and other players, they do like to bomb on forward. They do like to get the ball halfway and like to find what sequences and what like to find the channels. So for me, I would play a 4-2-3-1 as a match-for-match pick, similarly to the way Kilmarnock play. So for me, I'd play Gordon and goals on Sunday. Obviously, I'd play Michael Smith at right back. I'd play, well, because of the injuries Hearts have at this precise time, I'd play Smith, Nielsen, Kingsley, and Cochran. So defensively, I wouldn't change anything. Midfield-wise, I'd probably play my two defensive midfield players would probably be is it Q?
Yes.
Q. I'd play him. I'd probably play Civic or Harron, just because of the lack of depth in the Hearts team at this precise moment in time. I don't think Halliday's done enough for me to cement a start on Sunday. I would play Mackay, George Grant possibly, and Forrest. And I'd probably go for. Now, the big question for me is, who do you play up front? Do you go for Gary Mackay-Steven up front, which would sound ludicrous? Do you go for Barry Mackay in that number 9 role? Would you go for instead of Shanklin?
I would play Humphreys up front. We signed Humphreys as a striker, and to be honest, we played him out wide mainly, and that's not his position. He's a striker. I play him up top. And, I mean, for me, Gary Mackay-Steven, he's not been a great signing for Hearts. And a lot of Hearts fans don't like the fact that he doesn't work hard enough. He doesn't really track back. His work rate is very poor. And I've noticed that again tonight. There's a few folks saying Mackay-Steven, when he came on, looked disinterested. He's had a few decent games, but again, that was mainly kind of championship level. So I've not been particularly impressed with Gary Mackay-Steven.
Gary Mackay-Steven is a player for me that seems to have derailed his career a little bit. That's probably because of how his career has shaped out. Oh boy, because he had a great start, didn't you? Right? Gary Mackay-Steven. He earned his move to Celtic as a result of that stint at Tynecastle. Celtic maybe didn't work out in the way he wanted it to. And obviously went to America, he went to Aberdeen, and then after that stint in America, he obviously went to Hearts, and he started off reasonably well, but derailed and curtailed himself after that. I get the feeling, I don't know if you agree, but I get the feeling from the outside looking in that, as you say, he is disinterested, but at the same time, I get the feeling he's not, might be too strong a phrase here, but I get the feeling he's not good enough for what Hearts need at this precise moment in time.
I would totally agree. I just don't think when he comes on, you're always looking for substitutes or players that start. You're always looking for him to show something. And I'm not seeing enough of that from Gary Mackay-Steven. You look at last season, first game of the season, he scored against Celtic, first game of the season. And then after that, he did very little. And that's happened far too often.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a big question mark from Robbie Nielsen's point of view, such as who's he bringing in January and all that. It's a question that pops up every transfer window. Those journalists like to get that hype train going as soon as possible can. We can how many players that can come in, but at the same time as well, it's a case of you need to be replaced. It's a Dick Campbell phrase I'm going to use here. You sign the players that are better than what you've got, and it's the 3 or 4 or 5 players in that Hearts squad, that aren't good enough for this precise moment in time. 100%. Is Robbie Nielsen going to do something about it? It'll be an interesting one. I think the biggest worry from a Hearts board point of view, like I say, I think it'd be premature if Robbie Nielsen was to go. But I think the biggest worry from a Hearts point of view, or a Hearts board and director's point of view, is they don't want to go down the foreign route again. Like, I know what Hearts said under Romanov isn't a talent in it, but I think Hearts have got negative vibes as a result of that. and they don't want to go down the foreign route again when they're taking in foreign managers. It's a foreign evolution, and it means everything has to change.
I'm just looking at our next few fixtures. So we've got Kilmarnock on Sunday, then we've got Fiorentina, then we're away to Aberdeen, and then we're at home to Celtic. I mean, I'll be genuinely honest here, and I hate saying this. I don't know where Hearts are picking up points here, and that's a huge worry for me.
I'm going to go for a point. I'm going to go for a. Being honest, but I do a predictor thing with a couple of mates, and I actually predicted Hearts to win. But I only predicted that this afternoon before I seen that tonight. I'll change my mind now. I think they'll get 1 point on Sunday. I think you'll lose on Thursday. Now I want to put my red tinted specs on, but with Goodwin getting a touchline ban, I'm not 100% convinced. I think Aberdeen and Hearts would be 50-50. And then Celtic, if Celtic can go and wipe the floor with Hearts, they'll win comfortably. But obviously Celtic had well documented injury problems. So, and obviously Carl McGregor picked up two game ban, did he not?
He did, aye.
So he'd be suspended for Hearts, would he?
I think he. Yeah, I think
he's obviously got an injury. He's obviously got an injury after last night, but irrespective, he'd be suspended.
Yeah, I think he would be. Yeah.
So
I mean, I obviously hope this doesn't happen. But if the worst happens and we were to get beat in these next 4 games, what happens then? I mean, Hearts fans already don't like Robbie Neilson, so it's just going to get a lot worse if that happens.
If results deteriorate as they are, not that I'm saying Hearts have had a bad season or a shocking season. They've had a precarious season. I would give it until the World Cup. Then you've got a 2.5-3 week window to get a manager in, and then 2-3 weeks for a manager to bed his own ideas at the players. You could do it now, yes, but with 4 massive games coming up, it's a massive risk. And if results do deteriorate in the way that you say they possibly could be, I'd be doing it prior, not during, but prior to the World Cup start.
Do you think, I mean, with Anne Budge and Joe Savage, you know, what Robbie's done with the club recently, obviously 2 promotions, got us into Europe, got us to a Scottish Cup final. Do you think Robbie has that credit in the bank that, you know, Anne Budge and Joe Savage will say, do you know what? Let's not be harsh here. Let's give him more time and let's see what happens.
Well, Robbie Neilson, to my understanding, has a fantastic relationship with both Joe Savage and Anne Budge. And that relationship's a big thing in football. And getting that relationship with people that's on the board of directors, it's only going to give you credibility. It's going to save you time. And it's going to give you a longer lifespan as far as management is concerned. And that's massive. But for Joe Savage in particular, Anne Budge has been fairly quiet in the whole thing, but for Joe Savage in particular, he's been quite big whenever he's been in the media saying we want to be challenging for the league, we want to be getting Champions League football, we want to be getting Europa League football every season, we want to be minimum Scotland's third best team. So if nobody else goes in a poor run as it could be perceived, then it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if Joe Savage was to be ruthless and make a change as early as perceived.
I'm just looking at the group stage here, right? There's 3 games played. Istanbul are on 7, Fiorentina on 4, Hearts on 3, and RFS on 2. Hearts could still potentially get out of this group, but it's going to be a very, very tough ask.
Well, Fiorentina is a case of get what you can. RFS at Tynecastle's humongous. And Istanbul, again, that's a case of what can you get out of it and hope for the best.
Yeah, 100%. It's going to be a very, very difficult ask, but a really poor night for Hearts, a 3-0 defeat. But we will end on the high. Scotland women are in the final of the playoff against Ireland next week. Dave, are Scotland women going to be at the World Cup in New Zealand?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I'm going to be positive as well. I'm going to say that Scotland will win 2-0 next week. So it just remains for me to thank David Smith for joining me again tonight on a disappointing night for Hearts. I've been Graham Duthie. This has been a very long show after that defeat, but thank you very much for joining us, and we shall see you again soon. Bye-bye.
The Conference League has Scottish representation. If you want to know what's happened in the game, tune in on a Thursday for the Locker Room Special.